Good morning. How's everyone doing? Good, good, wonderful. So we're gonna chat a little bit about sustainable development goals. But before we get into all of this theory to practice and incorporating sustainability and all of that, the one thing I wanna talk about is this is something which is omnipresent. You know, what you do every day, whether you know it or not, in some ways is either contributing to sustainability or taking away from it, or you know uh, creating some avenues which touches all aspects of our life, all aspects of our careers, all of that. So a little bit about me. um, I'm the vice provost for internationalization at the University of Denver in Colorado. Previously I joined Denver right at the start of the pandemic. Before this, I was at Cornell, and my own education has been at the University of Georgia, where I did my master's, PhD, and all that. I'm an architect by profession. That is the hat I wear most of the time. I look at all of these from a design thinking lens, and I come into this, shaping not only careers and lives, but leading them with a sense of purpose. And with that sense, I think we need to really embrace sustainability as the path forward, not only for us or our children, but for this only planet that we know is inhabited and has life. So, moving forward, um, we're going to talk a little bit about theory to practice and SDG to SGD. Um, would you advance the slide? Thank you. So, if you wonder what SDG is and what SGD is, uh, we will unravel this. So, we're talking about sustainable development goals, and we use that same acronym with what IC3 is doing. But really, what we need to do is sensitize, glamorize, and democratize all of this so that we have a better understanding of this and we can take this forward. Next slide, please. So, a little bit about the UN SDGs. So, these are also known as the global goals, or a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all the people and the environments of the world by 2030. So the UN came up with this goal that by 2030, this is where we need to go. There are 17 of these. They were adopted in 2015 as a universal call for action to end poverty, protect the planet, ensure that by 2030, all people enjoy peace and prosperity, and that we set out a vision of a world free and better from poverty, from hunger, and from disease. At its heart, the UN SDGs are relevant to all countries. This is not exclusively meant for a developing country agenda or a developed country. So poor, rich, middle income doesn't matter, developing, developed. It is a global partnership to promote prosperity while protecting the environment and tackling climate change and working to prepare our oceans and our forests. The SDGs have a strong focus on improving equity to meet the needs of women, children, and disadvantaged populations so that no one is left behind. And that is very critical that it applies to everyone.
Where you get try to figure out what is available.
They recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go together with strategies that improve health,
that's something.
with improve education, reduce inequality, and can spur economic growth.
Yeah.
Next slide, please. So there are 17 of these SDGs.
And all of that,
I
right?
love these little graphics and, So if you look at these 17,
Which,
there's something that you're doing that all of us can
Okay.
relate to. They have
Now
these
you're-
17 goals have about 169 specific
now.
targets,
so that
232 measurable indicators. So
Yes.
I don't want you to get lost in the numbers. Remember, the most important bit is there are 17 of them, but they really span the scope and
Yeah,
breadth of
it's
all the
not-
work we do. So, number one looks at no poverty, goes to zero hunger, good health and well being. Number four, really important to all the work that you're doing, which is quality education. Number five is about gender equality. Number six looks at clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy for number seven, decent work and economic growth. Then goes on to industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Number 10 is about reduced inequalities across. Number 11 looks at sustainable cities and communities. Number 12 looks at responsible consumption and production. Number 13, a very critical and important one, which most of us relate when we think about sustainability, is climate action and climate related work. Number 14 is life below water. Number 15, life on land. Number 16, again, a very good and important one, peace, justice, and strong institutions. And number 17 looks at partnership for the goals and bringing all of this together. Next slide, please. So, what really we want to talk about is how are these important for the work that you do and to our students. So before we get to that, I want to talk about there are four critical things that we see happen today as part of change that we are witnessing. The first is we are close than ever, or in a much better place than we have ever been before to eradicating extreme poverty. Does that mean poverty doesn't exist? It does. It will. But that extreme nature of that is slowly going away. And that is because of the work that all of us do in trying to contribute to that. Society cannot change till we change that bottom line. We have to bring that up. The second is we see that human societies are causing more damage than ever to this planet and to the environment. Every day, when we drove and came here, when I took the plane and flew to the US, what you're doing, what you're consuming, how you're living, there is wastage, A lot of that is really taking away from this planet. And it is really critical because we are beyond that tipping point. It is not like, okay, I'm going to do something about it and I've got a runway that I can still protect. No, we've gone past that. And so our action today is more critical than ever. So we need to act on it now. And the third is that inequality amongst countries is really increasing. You see that amongst us, you see that in your society, you see what's going on around the world, in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, everywhere. There is not a society that is not touched with this sense of inequality, whether we look at it from a racial perspective or justice perspective, poverty, or any of those. And that really is quite concerning because at the end of it, as we are doing in IC3, it is important for all of us to recognize we want to humanize this. At the end of it, we laugh, we cry, we feel we are the same. We may look different, we may feel different, we may think differently, but at our heart, we are all same. And if we cannot embrace this aspect of ourselves, we are just going to grow further and further apart. That happens with our communication, that happens in how we think about it. And so these things don't need to only be out there for the sake of saying it. We have to internalize it. We have to practice it on an everyday basis. And the fourth one is that governance is becoming way and way more complex. You know, we live in a world of technology that is a tool that is omnipresent. We are telecasting this around the world. You are, working, thinking, looking at your phone, all the things you do. It is everything you look at today is a product that technology is enabling, supporting, and progressing. So, how do we use that for better future, but in a way that does promote equity, brings in more prosperity, and eventually is towards a sense of progress for everyone. So we need to take this, understanding this background of the world that we live in, and bring it forward for every student and think about a positive action that we can take, however small, to give them and make them agents of change. We are doing this today, not for us, but for our children. We are doing this because this is the world we want to leave behind for them. You know, if you want to do something, do this, do it, educate them, give them, provide them that learning so they are capable of protecting this environment, thinking better, thinking more judiciously about people around them, thinking more humanly, and then their children and their children and the rest of the work can go ahead from there. So we need to really inspire them to make the difference. Next slide, please. So, as you saw, of those 17 goals, they're really connected to each other. So, one of the most important things, and I've given a small example here. So, you see, poverty goal 1, leads to goal 2, leads to goal 3 with health problems. And then, it becomes a barrier when children want to go and complete their education. So that quality education starts getting compromised, and then maybe it will prevent them from getting ready and going and being able to secure a job. So, as school, college, career counselors, you are working to make the change when the students are in the school, but you have to also recognize the base from where they're coming. They are living in an environment that exists outside of the school, beyond the school, and the school is one aspect of so many things that they do. So you are really working with them in a manner where you are trying to control one aspect of an environment that is revolving in many ways. When they come to school, there is no switch that goes on. And when they leave school, it's not that the switch flips to something else, right? They are who they are. They're coming in. They bring with them their misery, their sorrows, and their joys, right? So you are really trying to make a difference in that small window of time that they have with you to inspire them, to make a difference. Whatever the situation is, wherever they come from, you have this important task of inspiring them to go forward, not give up, but also think about all of these important things and a huge burden that we carry on our shoulders and we want them to eventually embrace. So, we can't solve one of these goals by itself. So it's not like we think about, let's work on climate change. No, you can't work on climate change alone if you're not thinking of what's happening in the water, on the land, in the air, in our practice, all of that. So it's like at every point in time, it's like a puzzle we're trying to solve, and there's so many of these pieces. So that's what is really important when we think about the SDGs. Next slide, please. And that brings it to the last slide that I want to talk about, and then we will hear on some excellent examples from three of our panelists. So this is what we're looking at. How do you take these sustainable development goals and sensitize them, glamorize them, and democratize them? So it is akin to the SDGs. We don't have 17 parameters on this, but what we need to really think is you as educators have this important role to bring our students together, to bring yourself together, bring your communities together, and be able to make this change when you are, working with them. So the sensitizing aspect of this is really critical. It will help them internalize it. It will help them be aware and make them really conscious of how critical and important it is. Like I told you, the time is now. We don't have a runway on this, right? And we need to glamorize this. We need to understand. I can tell you, every job that we do, everything that we do is connected to the SDGs. I am starting to see that change happen in this country where people talk about it more actively. But whether you talk about it or not, whether you're looking at a CSR within the, industry practices here, or you're anywhere else where today's sustainability is critical to the core. And in higher education, you have majors, you have minors, you have entire degrees in that, right? People are graduating, people are going, and this is critical to everything you do. There is not one agenda in an industry that happens which does not relate to these SDGs. So your role and your work and knowing our students, we need to really impress on them how important these are and where they fit in. So we need to, kind of elevate them, glamorize them, bring them to the front. And we have to democratize it. We have to develop the human resource, the research, the opportunity, and make the playing field level for all of them. This is really important. Like I said, equity amongst all of this is critical. We spoke about the fact that all of these 17 goals really are banking on the fact that no one is left behind. So it is meant for everyone. It is not that one country is going to come in, or one sector or one industry, and they're going to work on this. We've got to all do this together. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over. If you have questions, we'll come back in the end and I'll help you and moderate those. So let me, at this point, introduce our next panelist. Next slide, please. We have Dr. Rahul Chopra. He's the director of the Center for Sustainability, Environment, and Climate Change at Flame University, India, and he's an associate professor of environmental studies. He is the director and co-lead of a global climate change education project of the International Union of Biological Sciences that aims to integrate climate change education in the curriculum across the world. He was the convener of the National Resource Center on Climate Change in the Indian Institute of Science Education and Research, ISER, Pune. He received his PhD from the University of Chicago. Please welcome Dr. Rahul Chopra.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Utyu, and welcome everyone. As Utyu's mentioned, this is really amongst the most critical sort of discussions that we can have. I'm especially thankful to him when he put this panel together towards sort of framing the question in terms of saying, let's go from theory to practice, because all of us do agree. I'm sure there's nobody in the crowd here who would not want the SDGs to finally be attained. How do we go about doing that, right? And so we sat and we've been grappling with this problem from the perspective of saying, how do you genuinely make a difference at scale so that, we can finally achieve some SDGs and finally move on towards this path of equitable, sustainable development for the entire planet itself. So I'll argue, here on my slide, I've written that, sorry, next slide, please. that, climate change is the most significant issue of our times, right? And I think people in this crowd don't need to be told much about that or so. And it will affect the sustainable and equitable development of all countries and their citizens. Now, this includes, the developing world, it includes the developed world, it includes every single person on the planet. So, if we want to start to make some sort of attempts towards getting solutions towards the climate crisis, what do we need to do? Step one is to make people aware of this problem. So, how do we go about making people aware of this issue? And we've focused on this project, which I'll talk about, where you increase awareness of climate change through education, the formal education system, and keeping educators as the change makers itself. Can I go to the next slide, please? So if you were to be asked to say, okay, let's go ahead and make a repository of climate change education material, which we will sort of go ahead and give to our teachers and our students, that would be one way of thinking about things. But when you look at the curriculum across the world and think back to your schools, think back to your training, in how many places is climate change actually offered as a course? And if it is offered as a course, how many kids will take it? So let's take the example of college. If it is offered, it'll be offered in a major such as geography or earth sciences or geology, maybe, right? How many kids are actually taking that? 20, 50, 100? So how much impact are you going to actually go about making? On the flip side, this problem requires knowledge from all disciplines because it touches all aspects of our lives or so. So our goal for this particular project was to say, how do we actually integrate climate change into the day-to-day sort of teaching of everyday teachers so all our students are made aware of the issue at least, right? And this slide just points out to the fact, and I think you all will relate to this, that, the syllabus, just as an example, UGC's model curriculum for undergrad here has not been updated since 2001. So climate change makes its appearance in one half of one paper of geography second year. So no way in which you can actually take it to people who are genuinely interested. Then we all know how tedious it is to actually change the syllabus. You do all of that, but where are the teachers and how are they trained right now to go ahead and teach that? That doesn't exist. Can I go to the next slide, please? So our project, and this is called Tropic Zoo, actually aims to bring climate studies into the mainstream education. We are using, again, teachers as our change makers. And what we want them to do is to essentially try to integrate it with topics that they teach in their everyday teaching already. For example, right, and I'll just start to put this in practice. Suppose you're a math teacher and you have to teach integration differentiation. Everybody has to. Instead of using the textbook example, can you provide your students with, let's say, carbon dioxide emission data? So that is the data set you deal with. If you're an English teacher, instead of and you're teaching grammar, let's say, maybe instead of using the textbook which we were subjected to as students or so, give them a climate text. If you're talking about poetry and structure like that, use climate poetry. If you're talking about creative writing, you can actually give them examples of climate fiction. So these are sort of simple ways in which, you can start to say, let us make it our everyday teaching practice itself. Can I go to the next slide? So our project has approximately 700, and I'll emphasize, free educational resources that teachers can use to teach topics in their disciplines. We have 10 disciplines, and where we are different is that, most educational material doesn't tend to go through extensive review, but we have a mechanism where it goes through 3 stages of review, reviewed for the scientific accuracy by climate experts, and then taken to teachers across the world to actually see, can this genuinely be used in your classroom for your teacher? Fully understanding that my classroom is different from yours, is different from a person in another country, in a developed country. Somebody has access to internet, somebody doesn't. But can we actually start to integrate this in a meaningful way? Go to the next slide, please. So this particular slide sort of, just walks you through again, the project and all of these resources which exist where teachers of different disciplines, and I've listed those disciplines here, they include the sciences, which is what most people tend to think about the climate change story being linked to understanding climate science. But in addition to that, there are multiple sort of disciplines in the social sciences, in the humanities, in the fine and performing arts that also have a link to understanding climate change for our students. So we have put together what we are calling, so we've collated, curated, and created teaching tools as well as lesson plans with a detailed step-by-step guide to walk a teacher through how to use these tools in their classroom. Again, I'll emphasize to teach topics in their discipline first and foremost. We all understand teachers are stressed, they don't have time. Can we get them to make this part of their everyday teaching? The way to do it is to say, you teach your topic, use a climate-related example, case study, which links climate understanding to the topic in discipline. As a teacher, you get to finish your syllabus because that's what they have to do all the time. Your kids will, by the by, get an understanding of climate science itself. These have also been mapped to different climate themes, so those who want to teach a full course in climate change can do so. And our kids, are going to learn in a different way than we did, right? So let us leverage the forms of education, novel digital pedagogy, which appeals to this generation. Can we use a game in our class? Can we use hands-on computer-based lab activities in our class to understand rather than lecturing? I might think I'm the greatest lecturer, but I know, and we did this analysis, in 8 minutes time, people's attention span goes down. You and me, I can't listen beyond 8 minutes, so forget our kids, right? So can we leverage these new forms of technology, which our kids relate to, in order to sort of understand climate change and provide them information? We also know that, learning is most effective if it is location specific and in your language. So we've tried to sort of put together these mapped to your location. I'm a geologist and I was trained in India and the US. So the Grand Canyon is what is, shown to us as our holy grail. But where I stay in Pune, we have the Deccan basalts, which is absolutely spectacular and a geologic marvel. I will teach my kids about the Deccan basalts in geology rather than the Grand Canyon, right? So these are ways in which we are doing this. Can I go to the next slide, please? Okay, so I'll be brief from here onwards. I think Utyu has so eloquently sort of, put across the message of the importance of the SDGs. So this project directly relates to SDG 4, which is quality education. And my personal sort of deal with keeping this project and starting it and taking it forward is that this is our attempts towards democratizing climate knowledge. So making quality educational material accessible to all in all parts of the world. Of course, we sit in directly with climate, with SDG 13, which is climate. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, to emphasize that this particular issue is not linked necessarily only to the sciences. So educators of all of these disciplines, social sciences, economics, humanities, and of course the sciences can certainly use it in their classroom. Just some examples, and these are lesson plans that we've written, which include a step-by-step detailed guide that can help the teacher to sort of be walked through the process of what to use and how to use it. It has learning outcomes listed in it. It has questions that you can ask your kids to do in the classroom. And it essentially shows how you can teach topic in your discipline, which is multidisciplinarily linked to climate change and climate understanding. And I think, Utyu, you might see certain sort of things which match directly into SDGs as well, whether it is demography and pandemics, or it is capitalism, or it is understanding the link between poverty and climate change, or are wars being caused and will be caused in the future due to changing climate, gender, all of these things. So there are about 200 to 300 lesson plans which are on our website. I'll just give that to you. Plus 400-500 standalone novel digital pedagogical tools that you can do. So I will end here by acknowledging all our partners. We've been fortunate to have a large sort of global community support this project. The International Union of Biological Sciences had started this project. So we have 17 of the largest science unions of the world who are partners to this project. In addition, national science academies of 8 countries and a few UN organizations, including the World Meteorological Organization, who houses the IPCC. So I just want to stop here by saying that, we've conducted workshops for teachers in different parts of the world. We've trained more than 1,000 teachers in 10 different countries. So invite us to your schools, invite us to your colleges, partner with us as workshop partners, partner with us towards getting your teachers to become content creators. And that is something that we've been actively sort of pursuing. My colleagues from Flame University, Sadhna and Anju, are sitting there. Please do get in touch with all of us. And, we hope we can involve all the people here in your networks and sort of get climate change education as part of our daily teaching in our institutes. So thank you very much for your time, and I will now.
Thank you so much, Rahul. We have our next panelist who will share with us her ideas and what they are doing at their university. So this is Rashmi Shenoy. Rashmi has a master's degree in science and philosophy. Her role as assistant high school coordinator has allowed and empowered her to empower her student community and facilitate personal and professional growth amongst her colleagues. Her passion is career counseling and empowering learners to give multiple opportunities for collaboration with eminent personalities and be part of the UN initiatives. She's here to implement the UN SDGs in her community and in a context that fits in with the academic curriculum. So please welcome Rashmi Shenoy. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Otio. Thank you, Otio and Rahul, for setting the stage for us to start our conversation, what we do in our school. I represent Legacy School from Bangalore. It's a Cambridge curriculum pathway school. That means we have grades 1 to 12, where we follow the Cambridge curriculum. And also in 11th and 12th, we have IB diploma program. So it's a dual program which we have in Legacy School, Bangalore. In Legacy, our vision and mission is to create a meaningful impact, a change through our student body. And that is where we emphasize on student agency. So while we emphasize on student agency, we focus on national, local, and global issues amongst the students and create an awareness. We follow a lot, or we emphasize a lot on the skills and values, which we can emphasize through multiple activities, multiple interdisciplinary approach, where we can give the students the opportunity to have a knowledge transfer also. When we were listening to Rahul, we understood the way each subject is interconnected. And Otio very clearly explained to us how the SDGs are connected to each other. That definitely helped the students to get the knowledge transfer done. And also we try, as teachers, as educators, we try to have a lot of innovation in our classroom. Like all the other schools, we also do a lot of activities. So I'm here just to touch upon few activities which we have done in our school, giving you a glimpse of the activities. And then through that, we will be able to connect the SDGs, how our students related it to the activities. Next slide, please. So this is a program which was born during the pandemic time. It's a Unavoka student-led initiative. The responsibility of the students was very much instilled or very much showcased during this particular initiative. They were very responsible enough to come up and talk about the mental issues, the mental well-being issues which they were which they were focusing, or which they were going through at the time of pandemic, when they were at home closed in one room and having only Zoom classes, where there was no social or any emotional connect with outside world. So that was the time when this initiative was born. A few students joined together. They started working on a website, and that website was completely driven by the student body. In that website, they were able to collect the material from the school community. They encourage all their classmates, all their peer group in the school to get artwork, to get stories, to get articles based on the passion that other children had. So this was a collective effort from the school. And at that time, we had a collaboration with UNODC. They were able to connect with multiple eminent professionals from the UN, and they were able to get this program going. So this gave a platform for them to talk about multiple SDGs. Like, it was more focused on SDG 16, but they were able to connect with 3, 4, and 5 also in the entire project which they started with. And in this program itself, it is not a stand-alone. When they start an initiative, it becomes there will be a lot of follow-up activities. So one of the follow-up activity of this Unavoka was a musical concert. So every month, the students identified who were able to hold or capture the attention of the audience through a live Instagram musical program. It was also telecasted on Facebook. So what the student focus was about, giving at least a half an hour time for the audience and focusing on the well-being of the students and the community around them. So it was a program which was a musical concert, but they were linking it to their mental well-being, which is focused in SDG 3. Next slide, please. So these are the little things they did during their program of Unavoka. They made posters. They invited an eminent speaker from UN to conduct a great talk on the cyber security. At that time, that was something which was very much in the conversation, because the entire online world was open to all the students around the globe. So we had a conversation, a discussion, a brainstorming activity, having Dr. Neil Walsh, who is the cybersecurity head. So that brought the entire community together. So this is one initiative. Next slide, please. So we can look through the next activity. This is a lake restoration activity, which we started in the year 2018. And the structure of this activity is that it is continued from one cohort to the other, so that it is sustained. Students are introduced, or at the time when Bangalore had a lot of issues with the lake restoration, they were able to meet up with one of the group, Jalmitra group, the Guardians of Lake. It was a part of India Water Foundation, and these children were able to reach out to them and be part of their advocacy, and also research, restoration, and rehabilitation of the entire ecosystem. So this became part of their curriculum. We have a GP curriculum which is offered in Legacy School. That is a global perspective curriculum, which is mandatory for all the students from grade 1 to 12. So this lake project is I would say, a child of GP projects. They are being taken into different age group. Kids get different opportunity to be part of this lake restoration program. Now the lake is being taken care well under the guidance of Jalmitra group, and our children, the Legacy School children, go there, do their little contribution, like they have awareness classes conducted for the local community there, and they have set up a vertical garden. They did conduct a plantation drive, and also at most of the time they do a garbage drive there. and also create awareness with the local people, how to be a part of the ecosystem and protect the ecosystem. And of course, yes, when we are looking through the syllabus and the content of the syllabus, we took the water for sampling, testing, and then it was linked to the chemistry subject. So we are interlinking the subject in an interdisciplinary approach, bringing SDG goals into it. And like how Rahul said, yes, we are all bound to complete the syllabus. We all need to complete the syllabus prescribed by our board. But how do we integrate this? That's a real challenge for us. But when we brainstorm with the head of departments, when we brainstorm with our subject teachers, and also the student representatives, we get an idea how to go about it in such a way that nobody is impacted, and we are able to meet with all the requirement and give the students the awareness what is required for today's world. Next slide, please. This is also the part of Lake Project, some glimpse of how the children are involved in the activities. They really enjoy that activity. And from word of mouth, from the seniors to juniors, when it is passed on from the through the student body, it becomes easier for the educators to take it forward. They give the motivation, they give the inspiration. The project never dies down. Otherwise, the project slowly dies off and the importance is lost because the children are not passionate about it. But since this is the pattern of the activity, it is easier for them to continue to the next generation. Next slide, please. This is a very cute project which was done by the grade 12 students. This was inspired by their middle school field trip. They had been to an animal shelter, and they saw how the animal, the cruelty to the animals, and that is something which was there in mind in their middle school learning. And as and when they got a chance, as and when they were part of a CAS activity in IB program, they got a chance to design, creatively design the thoughts in their mind. A group of students took pictures. Another set of children designed the calendar, and there, it was interlinked with the business project to collect fund for this calendar. They definitely published or printed around 500 calendars, and that was distributed or sold across the community, and they were able to collect fund, and that fund was used to give back to the society in terms of they distributed it to the same animal rescue center, and that money is used, or they bought them a lamp and a focus light where the operations can be conducted using that light. When they went to the animal rescue center, they found out that if there is an injured animal, they cannot conduct an operation because there were no focus lamps. So what I'm trying to say is students go beyond our understanding in making a research, an attempt in understanding what it is. So it is easier if we give the ownership and the responsibility to them, give them a timeline and the guidance required, the project will come out beautifully. And this is definitely connected to SDGs. And it is a complete land animal on land is being focused on. Next slide, please. This is a project which is yet to be born. We are working on it. It's the time where students have come up with focusing on the third SDG goal. And this year's theme in Legacy is You, Me, and We, where we are focusing on this group, the community. And what the students have done is they have figured out that self-management skill is something they have to be working on. And thus, they have come up with this project. I'm eagerly waiting to see how it comes out. Definitely in our next sessions or next conversations, we will come up with more ideas how they came up with the outcome of this. But they are really working on something. They have conducted surveys to understand what is the most important skill required for themselves. And they have a plan and a project to continue the work forward. So these are the few activities which we related in Legacy School with SDG. Thank you.
Next slide, please. Thank you, Rashmi. Our last speaker is Dr. Srinivasachari. She's a science educator at Puna Learning Center, Bangalore. After being in research as a DBT and Wellcome Trust India Alliance Early Career Fellow at INSTEM Bangalore in the interdisciplinary area of chemistry and biology. For more than a decade, she moved to science education. Satya has integrated her real-world experience as a researcher with her passion to teach and educate young minds and appreciate science. She enjoys designing creative content and tools to connect science with the broader community. She is passionate to mentor younger generation and expose them to the plethora of available opportunities globally. She is part of Samagama, an initiative of Puna Learning Center that works to create awareness on sustainable living and become responsible citizens. She volunteers for IC3, the sustainability team, and is interested in integrating sustainability into career counseling. She's also part of the 5th cohort and excited about her graduating as a college and career counselor today. So congratulations on that. And please welcome Dr. Satyarinivasa. Next slide, please.
Okay. Thanks, Utya, for the warm words. And I'm just going to make it real fast because I think we are going to be running out of time soon. I have an iSchool exhibit tomorrow. So if I miss out things, you're welcome to visit me there and we can talk more about the things which I miss out talking here. I think Rahul and Rashmi has covered a lot of things. I feel it's more like a funnel. We started with Rahul talking about how do we design a curriculum for sustainability, climate change, and then Rashmi talking about a lot of examples, what she's doing in our school. And then now I'm going to be representing Pune, which is a community school, which started with just 3 students as a home school. And it has grown to 200 students in 30 years' time. We follow Cambridge affiliation and also open school curriculum in our school. And 40% of our students are actually from underprivileged background. So I'll be talking more about how do we do a lot of things related to sustainability in everyday activity in our school. You can see the philosophy of our school is more about the adaptability, curiosity, sustainability, and inclusivity. And we focus on holistic, on creative and collaborative activities in our school. And also I'm proud to say that, and humble to say that we have integrated 5 of the SDG goals in our curriculum so far. And we expect to do more in the future, keep adding more to it. Next slide, please. Okay. This is actually about an outreach program, BIJA, which actually means seeds in Kannada. It's a community education program. And what we do here is to provide a holistic, inclusive, and safe learning environment, primarily for marginalized children, who are children of migrant workers. It started in 1995. They actually have a lot of BIJA centers in and around Bangalore. The teachers from the school, Puna Learning Center, and students, they go and work with a lot of the community workers there. The main thing is to create child-friendly, well-resourced and technology-supported learning centers, which we normally do. We also train the teachers there. The teachers from our school and the students, they train the teachers to implement the pedagogy of our school. And also in keeping in line with the new education policy, we try to train them. And we help the parents there who are migrant workers to develop a perspective about education, because that is actually missing, right? They don't have any perspective on education because they are from marginalized background. So we actually talk to them, we educate them to have a perspective on education, and also to empower the local youth and support them to overcome the gaps in the education system. So this is the primary goal of the BIJA project. You could see in the visuals that a lot of teachers go and work on hands-on designing fun activities for the kids, to involve the community, create a learning space, a creative learning space for them. We also set up small libraries which can be carried around and educate the children with the materials there. This normally happens in the evenings and weekends, so that the teachers and the students find some time to go and work with these communities. So the facilitators and students from Pune, they go and work with the communities. Sometimes the students also visit the school to look around the labs and the computer labs and the science lab, and if they can do some experiments in the lab. So these are done as part of the BIJA outreach program. This actually directly works with the UN SDG Goal 4, which is inclusive education, quality education for all. Next slide, please. This is actually on our Samagama, which is a sharing space. This started actually during the COVID pandemic. The thought was like, how do we make the time effective in terms of learning more about sustainability? Because we were all stuck at home and the students were stuck at home. Everything was happening online. But how do we make it more effective? And most of our lectures were on online mode, where we normally invite guest speakers working on different environmental issues. What you're seeing there is just 3 representative talks. We had more than 8 to 10 talks on different things. Climate action was one of them. We also invite local farmers to come and share their experience, so that the students get to hear from them. It was not only for the students, it was also open for the broader community, where parents could be involved and listen to the talks. Even the local communities or local apartments close by were informed, and they could also log into a Zoom session and listen to these talks. One of them, Low Waste Life from Vani Murthy, we felt was very interesting, because it was more a lecture and a workshop mode, where she was demonstrating how to make a daily compost. How do we actually turn soil or the kitchen waste to black gold? This is what she actually demonstrated. And so Samagama was one of the very successful event, and all our lectures of Samagama is actually recorded, and we have a YouTube link. So if any of you are interested, you can let me know, and we could definitely share the link with you. Next slide, please. The Carpentry is a very latest addition to the creative space. This encourages the children to explore and creative and work with their mind also. This is also a part of a vocational training which we have introduced, and we are the first school to register Carpentry as one of their vocational training subjects. It's also integrated part of the curriculum with the NEP policy on vocational training. We could discuss more if you're interested, like how do we go about it later. Just one more minute. I just want to go with the last slide. Can you move to the next slide? So I'm just going real quick with this and the next 2 slides. We have a hands-on training on soap making in our timetable, in our activities. So we have a lot of activities starting from cooking, upcycling of old clothes to bioenzymes and soap making in our curriculum, which is integrated part of their timetable. The grade 11 students, when we talk about esterification reaction in science, we actually make them do the soap, so that we tell them like, this is a simple concept, a one-line concept in your textbook, and how it is actually used in a soap industry. So this is how we see that anything which is very simple from a textbook can be integrated into a broader curriculum with a lot of planning in advance. So we are very much into soap making, and actually it is also sold. Next slide. This is my last slide. I'm just going to sum up everything. So where do all these things which we make from our activities actually go? This is what we call as a Puna Sante or a Puna Mela. I've listed all the SDG goals which we do. I don't have time, I'm falling short of time to go over it. So all the products we make from our cooking activities like chutney powder or anything, and even the eco-friendly paper mache, soaps, the carpentry materials or the upcycled products of the old clothes, they all are part of our Puna Mela. We actually sell it out, and whatever we get out of it is, again, the money is also taken care to buy more. So this actually teaches the kid that you can make anything from the upcycling material, and how do you make a sustainable living out of it in future. So this is how we try to integrate it into our curriculum. For this the Mela, we also invite the BIJA community, which is we try to bring them in, and whatever they make, we also help them to get a livelihood out of them so that they can sell it in our stall and make money out of it. Even the local farmers are invited to set up stalls from the locally grown fruits and vegetables. So in this way, we also introduce the children and the community about local growing, organic farming, and what exactly you can do. How do you go and even help them, the local farmers, in getting a dry compost, or even in their gardening or the cropping mechanism? What exactly happens in our day-to-day life of a local farmer? We also have display of our compost making and bioenzymes, which the children and the teachers do it the year long. And this is also sold as part of the Puna Mela. So with this, I would like to thank IC3 for this wonderful team, actually the sustainability team. We have a lot of discussions, we have meetings, and it's really interesting to learn how a lot of people are actually doing many things related to sustainable living, and how do we integrate it into the curriculum. Thank you all for being so patient and listening to me with this, having a limited time. Thanks a lot.
Hello. We can quickly have a couple of questions, if any. Yeah.
Jaishankar Raman from California State University. Thank you so much for this presentation. This was fantastic. One question is, in terms of, and this goes to all three of you, is there a thought given to perhaps credentialing this so that there is some recognizable outcome out of this? So as a university person, if a high school student is coming saying that this is a credential that I have, that would be very helpful. And so I'm just going to leave it at that.
I hope I have understood your question correctly. Yes, so in our school this year, what we have started with grade 11th and grade 12 students is something called as a teaching assistantship, where they try to shadow a teacher, shadow different activities. And at the end of the first 1 year of all their activities, we are just giving them a certificate. It's not a certificate, but we are trying to explain that what are all the different activities they have done over the year and what is the learning, and with the seal and the signature from the school. And we are saying that they probably can actually use it as their learning when they're applying for college or universities. So what I would request is all those delegates from the universities should probably tell us if that would be counted. Actually, I would put the question back to the college and university representatives here, that will that certificate actually be valid?
Yeah, no, certainly we've been thinking about it, and it's so when we run these teacher training sort of workshops, we certainly give them a certificate. Does it have value right now? I don't know. It'll have value based on the partner logos at this point in time. But as we sort of move on to our next stage, which is truly take it, because now we have the content. Now we need to take it and train more and more through multiple partners in multiple locations. So in the course of doing that, we do partner with other institutes, and they run their sort of outreach programs and give certifications with their sort of branding. We are starting a process maybe in the end of the year or so, where we have grades of training, level 1, 2, 3, 4. And, so for each one, the number of hours of training corresponds to something concrete. So certainly it's something we've been thinking, because it has to be that way for it to sustain, and sustain beyond us, certainly. And sort of, again, be relatively uniform, but at the same time understand that location counts for a lot. Yeah.
Thank you, Rahul, Rashmi and Satya. So this has been really wonderful. And I'll just like to add on, Dr. Shankar. See, there are institutional partnerships already existing. And in fact, the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Environment, through the Envis centers in the universities have already tied up with schools like us. So we are also a very experiential school, and we are associated with the United Nations Academic Impact through the ASPIRE program, and also through the UNSLCDs and the SCOPA. So there is a significant load now on sustaining the efforts to preserve climate. And I would welcome all of you. If there is any specific interest, we would like to partner with institutions as well. The university school tie-up is already on. And in effect, there is an exchange of ideas from school to university. So the University Envis Center, University of Madras, is sending its interns to the school to learn the sustainable efforts that the schools are practicing. I would like that you also reach out, ma'am, and it would be really interesting if this synergy exists between the post-secondary education and the school education. A lot of work is happening, and I would be happy to share it with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Really appreciate your presence here. I wish you all an amazing, wonderful conference. Please connect with everyone. Please, use the opportunity to network, all of that. I leave you with two thoughts related to this. We are releasing from the SD committee a white paper on the resource library. Please look at that. It does address some of the questions that Shankar asked about credentialing in terms of competencies that we are counting would be part of this. The other, I request all of you is please, if you have time, if you're interested, if this is an area of interest for you or your school, come and volunteer with us on the SD committee. We would love for you to be part of this and contribute to this. But there are a lot of examples that with the white paper will come out. There are beautiful examples that Rashmi, Rahul, and Satya shared. And we will keep adding more to it. This is something, use the examples, adapt them to your schools, but embrace them. Let's finish with a round of applause for Rashmi, Rahul, and Satya. Thank you very much. Thanks, all of you.